call this hearing to order. This is a hearing on the nomination to be our Commissioner of Resources and Economic Development. Our nominee, Jeff Rose, is here with us. Welcome, and welcome to everyone else who's come. My name is Deborah Pignatelli. I'm the councilor representing District 5. And with us tonight in this room are Colin Van Ostern, District 2, and Chris Pappas, District 4. And with us on the phone also tonight is Ray Burton, who represents District 1.
And good evening, Madam Chair, and associate members of the council, and everyone gathered there this evening.
Well, we're welcome to you. I need to read something because we need to read this for the right to know law. So I'm just going to be reading this. Okay, we have Councilor Burton attending the meeting of the council by telephone. In the 35 years that he has been a councilor, he has missed only 2 meetings. One of them this last Wednesday, yesterday. Today he participates by telephone. Councilor Burton, can you please identify yourself and tell us where you are, and if you can hear us, and will you also identify anyone else who is present with you?
Yes, my name is Raymond Burton. I serve Council District number 1 of the Northern District, 108 towns, 4 cities spread across the northern 7 counties of New Hampshire. I'm speaking from my home office at 338 River Road, Bath, New Hampshire, and I'm here alone.
Okay. Well, we're glad you're here with us tonight, Ray. As is the normal way we do hearings, we have invited our nominee to the table, and if you would like to make an opening statement, Jeffrey, feel free to do so.
Sure. Thank you, Councilor. And again, for the record, my name is Jeffrey Rose, and I reside in Goffstown, New Hampshire. And it's a pleasure to come before you this evening to discuss my nomination as Commissioner of the Department of Resources and Economic Development. It's an absolute honor to have been asked to serve the state of New Hampshire, and I want to thank Governor Hassan for having the confidence in me to bring my name forward to the Executive Council. I am truly excited about this unique opportunity and about the potential to do great things on behalf of the Granite State. For me, this is truly a dream job. I have lived in New Hampshire nearly my entire life and have a passion for the beauty, strength, and culture that makes our state so special. Whether it's our spectacular natural resources, our distinctive structure of government, our unique tax and business advantages, or our rich cultural heritage, the idea of being a steward and advocate of the things I love couldn't be more exciting. To understand this, I would like to give you a little more background as to how I've come before you today. I grew up in Merrimack, New Hampshire, and my family and I spent lots of time together enjoying the beauty of this great state. This often included camping trips, fishing adventures, and snowmobiling in the White Mountain National Forest. I would also routinely spend time with my friends, enjoying our beaches, hiking our mountains, and visiting our state parks. It was just a normal part of my life and what you do when you grow up in New Hampshire. And this is what I do with my family today. While I currently reside in Goffstown, I have a small place in Grafton County abutting the White Mountain National Forest, where I spend considerable time with my family. While in the mountains, I try to bike and hike as regularly as I can. I love skiing, both downhill and cross country, and any day that I can spend on the river fly fishing is by definition a great day. I thoroughly enjoyed working in the public sector and took great pride in helping make the federal government work for its constituents. I initially worked for a congressman from New Jersey. While it was a wonderful experience, I realized early on that my heart was in the Granite State and not the Garden State, and came home to New Hampshire. While working for members of Congress, in fact, one of my first assignments was working with the White Mountain National Forest and developing its 20-year forest management plan. As a member of Senator Bob Smith's staff, I worked closely with the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee to maximize the benefit of the Senator's chairmanship on behalf of the state of New Hampshire, including serving on the Connecticut Lakes Headwater Committee that helped preserve the international paperland. For the past 9 years, I've had the privilege of working at BAE Systems in Nashua, in a variety of government relations and public affairs roles. The culture and mission of the company have made it a pleasure to get up each morning knowing that I'm making a difference in protecting the lives of our men and women in uniform. I've been fortunate not only to love my job, but to have learned so much in the business and how various issues drive corporate behavior in the private sector. Working for the largest manufacturer in the state and a company that has facilities in dozens of states around the country, I've seen firsthand how public policies can shape business decisions. I also appreciate the value BAE Systems places in being a good corporate citizen and encouraging its employees to be active members of the community. I've been able to spend a considerable amount of time working in the state with nonprofits and business advocacy organizations. I spent 6 years serving the Red Cross and the National Chamber of Commerce and assumed leadership positions within both organizations, serving as board chair. I've also worked closely with the New Hampshire Business and Industry Association and the New England Council, finding ways to advocate for a healthy and vibrant business community in New Hampshire and the region. However, the organization I take the most pride in serving is the New Hampshire State Society. As president of this organization, I've worked closely with New Hampshire's colleges and universities to provide stipends to Granite State students who are interning in our nation's capital. The State Society also partners with the New Hampshire Congressional Delegation and the New Hampshire Department of Travel and Tourism to host Experience New Hampshire. This is a showcase event on Capitol Hill to highlight the rich traditions of New Hampshire's grand hotels, quality culinary offerings, and cultural opportunities. It provides great exposure to our state's travel and tourism industry and gives a flavor of why New Hampshire is so special to key policymakers in our nation's capital. I believe my professional experience in the public and private sectors have helped prepare me for the opportunity to lead an organization as diverse and important as DRED. I have been active in working as an advocate to create and or maintain a healthy business environment throughout my professional career. I recognize the role of government is to help provide a backdrop for our small businesses and entrepreneurs to grow and create jobs. I know we need to have a skilled workforce to meet the needs of businesses, and that starts with a quality and engaged education system. I have worked with our colleges and universities, our community colleges, and even our high schools to help create programs and curriculum designed to meet the emerging needs of our businesses. And working with the National Chamber of Commerce and the New Hampshire BIA have helped support ideas and policies designed to attract and retain businesses and ultimately work towards creating jobs. My goal as commissioner would be to create a culture where the dedicated employees within the agency feel empowered and supported in their efforts to provide the best service possible to the citizens of this state. I will serve as an effective advocate and protector of our economic and natural resources that define New Hampshire. To do this, I will engage directly with our employees to listen to their ideas and experiences. I will reach out to our external partners and have an open mind as to what their thoughts are on the strengths and opportunities within the agency. I will be an active commissioner, and I plan to lead by example. For when you're doing something that you love, people, be it employees or constituents, will feel the enthusiasm and commitment I bring to our state. Again, I believe I have the experience, the passion, and the personality to be an effective leader for DRED. I will work tirelessly to be an effective advocate for our businesses, to be a steward of our natural resources, and to promote the wonders of our state parks, and to find ways to bolster our tourism industry. Working together with the governor, the legislature, the dedicated employees of the state, and the citizens of the Granite State, I couldn't be more excited about the potential that lies ahead. I ask for your vote to confirm my nomination to serve as the next commissioner of the Department of Resources and Economic Development. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I'm going to ask Councilor Burton to begin the questioning. We usually go around the table, although in District 5 I always got to go last. But I think I'm going to give Councilor Burton a chance to ask some questions first. Councilor Burton, do you have some questions?
Yes, I certainly do. Jeff, as you know, I have forwarded to you many emails from folks up in the northern part of the state of New Hampshire, which I'm honored to serve as a public official many years relative to Northern Pass. In all my years of service to this district, I have never seen a project or a proposal that has brought people from all walks of life, every part of the political spectrum you can imagine, and to uphold this Northern Pass. December 27, 2010, at one of the required hearings in Lincoln, I publicly stated that I felt that public service companies in New Hampshire and Hydro-Quebec should pack their tents and go home. Because it's disturbing people, and they just haven't backed off. I thought over time that they'd smarten up and get out of here and let us be ourselves and tend to our own business, but they have not. It's like dragging a big extension cord down across the top of us that does nothing for us other than devalue the land and ruin our views that many of the tourist businesses thrive on up here. In your statement, one of the statements you made said one of the spectacular natural resources. In your opening remarks, you want to be an advocate and protector of the natural resources that define New Hampshire. And you're going to find ways to bolster our tourism industry, our state parks. How do you square away with all of us your statement that I believe you made just recently, according to what I have here, only a few weeks ago, Rose promoted the high transmission line power initiative during a Nashua Chamber breakfast for legislators, saying the Northern Pass project helps bring additional capacity into the New England market. So I think I'm reflecting a lot of concern, I know I'm reflecting a lot of concern about the nomination to this key post in New Hampshire state government. Also, the Commissioner of Resources and Economic Development sits on many committees, and you should know about the 146,000 acres that you were involved in putting together from Senator Nunu's staff, I believe, at that time. So you're certainly not a stranger here in northern New Hampshire, but you've got to square things away with me and others in Council District Number 1 on your position on Northern Pass, and what you would do if you are, as you pointed out, you want to be an advocate of our natural resources and to bolster our tourism industry. So I appreciate, Madam Chair, when Mr. Rose wants to respond, that he should respond, and realize that this is a very key job, probably the most key job in Council District Number 1, where we rely so heavily upon our view and the land that I've come to know and love over my years of service to the people of this district. So, Jeff, please come back at me with some of your thoughts on Northern Pass.
Well, thank you very much, Councilor, for your question. And I'm sure I speak for everybody here in wishing you the very best and speedy and full recovery as you battle and take care of very important things. And also thank you for your long-standing service to the state. With regards to the Northern Pass project, which you clearly stated your position, I pledged you that I do not have a position on the Northern Pass project, Councilor. I know there was some confusion and perhaps misinformation regarding potentially my involvement with the Nashua Chamber during the time when the Chamber took their position in support of the Northern Pass project. I was not a part of that board at the time when that vote took place. So I have not taken a vote or a position on the Northern Pass project. As a spokesman and as a representative of BAE Systems, I have spoken about projects, and the Northern Pass project being one of them, and have always couched that any, BA systems, I believe personally that the role of the Commissioner of the Department of Resources and Economic Development needs to come at this from a neutral and objective and open-minded position. I sit here before you today with no preconceived notions on that particular project. I am familiar with it in its macro sense. I have been at events where both sides of that issue have presented their perspectives, and I know it's a very, very important issue on behalf of the state. And I know as the commissioner, or whomever the commissioner would be, would serve on that site evaluation committee. And I think it's imperative that there be no preconceived notions from the commissioner while serving on that particular committee. So I pledge to you, I do not have any particular predetermined position there. I will come at that position with an open mind and fair and objective, and will evaluate anything against the important backdrop of recognizing the uniqueness of our landscape and the value that that provides to our state, and particularly to our North Country. As you know, Councilor Burton, I have an affinity for the North Country, and consider the further north you go in the state, the more spectacular it becomes. And I have a very special interest and relationship with the North Country as one who owns property there and spends considerable amount of time in our North Country. And I can pledge to you that I appreciate and recognize the sensitivities associated with our spectacular landscapes, and will always make sure that as the steward of our natural resources, that I take that into consideration in evaluating any proposal before me, but that any proposal before me would be evaluated on the merits of its matter, and without any predetermined positions.
No further questions at this time.
Thank you, Councilor Burton. Councilor Van Osten?
Thanks, Madam Chair, and thanks, Mr. Rose, for coming and joining us. And I wanted to say thanks in particular. You've been, since Governor Hassan nominated you, you've been very responsive. I really appreciate that. We met yesterday to talk about the position, and I had some follow-up questions that I think I sent at 6 o'clock this morning, and you sent me a pretty well thought out email within a couple hours. So thanks for doing that. I think that's a great example. Part of this process now is you having an opportunity to show all of us, both on the council and as citizens in New Hampshire, what kind of a commissioner you'll be. And I think that sort of responsiveness is an important example of the type of responsiveness that we'll expect for our commissioner to the citizens of New Hampshire. I really appreciated in your opening statement also you talking about your love for our state. I share that, and I really believe we live in a special place here. I don't think there's a better place to live, work, raise a family, or grow a business than New Hampshire, and that's why I think this job in particular is so critical. I think the job of our state's Department of Resources and Economic Development, in a nutshell, is protecting our quality of life here. And that means a strong and growing economy and a beautiful, clean, and accessible natural world around us. And I have a number of questions. I'll ask one or two follow-ups about the Northern Pass, but I have several others as well, mainly about the economy. I think it's the most pressing issue facing our state. As a business manager myself, it's what I know best, as opposed, I'm not a steward of public lands. But I think it's also critical to acknowledge that, well, I'm not going to go into depth about our forests or our parks. I think it's important to note the importance that they have for our state as a whole, not just for quality of life. It's part of what makes New Hampshire so unique, but it also is what brings people here in the first place. So on the Northern Pass issue, I guess mainly I wanted to just reconcile a couple things, because I, like Councilor Burton, have received a large number of inquiries about this from folks in my district and from around the state. So one of the questions I have, well, from our exchange earlier and from what you said here today, I think you've made it clear that both the BA didn't take a position on Northern Pass, didn't take a formal position, and also that you weren't on the board of the Nashua Chamber when it cast that vote recently. So in terms of reconciling some of the things I've read, one question I have is, currently on the Chamber website, which lists you on the board, I understand it's out of date, that happens, But it also says that you're chair of the National Chamber of Commerce Advocacy Committee. And I'm curious if that's current or if that is also something that's not currently accurate. Your work on the Connecticut Headwaters tract of land that was preserved by Governor Cheney and Senator Gregg at the time. I think you were on the staff. You probably know more about the specifics of that and the conservation easement that DRED manages than most of the people in this room. Can you tell us whether or not land under that conservation easement would be, under your stewardship at DRED, would be used for the development of private power transmission lines?
I would not anticipate that. I'd have to go back and look at the specifics within that particular easement. It's been some time, and I was not involved in the actual letter writing, but I do know in a considerable amount of time there, the spirit and the intent by which that project came together, which was very much in a bipartisan fashion, very much from people who appreciate the values of the lands throughout the state, and recognizing the unique opportunity to preserve and protect that particular special piece of property in a whole host of different capacities, whether that's through specific wilderness areas, through recreational areas, through forest and land management. So I do know that that's a very special tract of land that's very important to us. And while I can't speak to the specifics, perhaps, of your question regarding, the easement, I do know the spirit by which that project came together and the importance of that project for people throughout the state.
Yeah, I think it was a critical project. I remember when it happened, and I was really proud that New Hampshire is taking a step like that, and I appreciate your role and so many others in it. The reason I asked about that in particular is because it seems like that tract of land will be one of the issues at play in northern Hess. I read somebody reported me an opinion column that former State Senator John Gallus wrote, in which he advocated for allowing projects, quote, I'm going to quote him here, about the Northern Pass, quote, allowing these types of development projects to consider use of conserved land, areas such as the Nash Stream, the Connecticut Headwaters, or other public lands, would take many of the burdens off private landowners and allow development away from areas with greater concentration of people and homes. I was a little surprised to hear him advocate for that, but it seems like there's a genuine beginning of a public discourse about whether it's proper or not to use these lands under conservation easement for private development, specifically of power transmission lines. I don't expect you to, though you were, had a lot of expertise on this in the past, I don't expect you to have an opinion on the spot. But we do have an opportunity before we'll vote on your confirmation, and I'd ask for you to take a look at that and give us your opinion about whether or not it's proper to use that land for development of power lines before we have a chance to vote. So I'm going to set aside the Northern Pass issue from there.
Most of our forest lands are in private lands, so working closely with the landowners and trying to find opportunities to work with them to promote best forest management practices and trying to make sure that we have a healthy and viable and sustainable forest. And I think that's something that's important to our state. I mean, that's one of the founding industries of our state and remains one of our key driving economic industries within the state, is to have that sustainable forest and a forest that can sustain many uses, whether that's a healthy timber harvesting, whether that's trying to help promote wildlife and habitat, whether that's trying to help promote recreation and tourism. Those things are all very much intertwined. And so while you're right, I do think I bring a lot of experience from an economic development perspective. It's not an accident that we have these 4 departments all wrapped up into this one agency, because they're all very much intertwined together. So I can assure you that one of the things that makes me most excited about this opportunity is to be an advocate and a steward of these natural resources. I recall, again, being from New Hampshire, some of my most favorable memories are spending time at some of our state parks, and whether that's traveling as field trips when I was a student to Bear Brook State Park or Odeon State Park, or hiking Mount Washington and seeing some of the other beauties of our state and some of the unique nature of our states, or being up in the yurts up in Milan. I recognize the uniqueness that we have within our state, and trust me when I say that's the reason that I'm so excited about this opportunity, is to try to bring the collective experience that I've had in terms of being an advocate and champion on behalf of business, but also recognizing the unique landscapes that we have and some of the natural gems that we have within our state, and trying to be a champion and advocate on behalf of those just as much.
I received had concerns regarding the Northern Pass. So in an article in the National Telegraph by David Brooks on Friday, June 24, 2011, which was over a year ago, you're quoted as saying, or it's quoted that you said, Rose said that the company spends millions of dollars on electricity at its national facility, a cost it is always looking to cut, either by reducing consumption or finding cheaper electricity. Do you remember saying that?
Something to that thereabouts, sure, that, you know, that would seem to be consistent with something that I would say.
Okay. Rose said the economic effect as outlined by PSNH, including jobs and tax dollars up north, as well as the likelihood that it will hold down electricity costs, made it an attractive idea to BAE Systems, at least in theory.
Okay.
That's an accurate quote or an accurate interpretation of something that you said?
Well, I believe I probably would have said something to the effect of BAE Systems does not have an official position or a position on the Northern Pass project, but I have previously stated comments, and again, while representing BAE Systems and, you know, their interests as the largest manufacturer in the state, they would be consistent in terms of trying to have, you know, reliable and dependable forms of energy is very important. If I recall correctly, I would have also stated that, you know, it's part of a process, and it has to go through its very comprehensive process. And so, you know, as it unfolds, that the process will take care of itself. But BAE Systems would not have been taking any particular position on that legislation. And I think any time I've ever commented about energy rates, I have always stated, particularly when it comes to the Northern Pass project, is that BAE Systems does not have a position on that project, but we do consistently pay attention to making sure we have affordable and dependable energy.
Okay. And could you have said, it seems like that the benefits for the state and the region could be really significant. That's a direct quote. Do you think that that's an accurate quote?
Well, again, it has to go through a process based on the macro of what was being presented at that day. You know, there was a whole host of things I would have talked about, because I do recall that particular forum, and there were opposition perspectives that were very compelling as well. So I would have probably even referenced the fact that, you know, there needs to be a very deliberate process by which any project would go forward, because while, you know, some of the macro issues that were presented may have had some compelling interest in terms of the fact of, you know, referencing jobs and taxes and that kind of stuff. But again, that was from a very different context, and BAE Systems would not have been in a position, and I would not have taken a position publicly on that particular project, because I don't have one. I referenced the fact that, you know, I don't have a predetermined position on that particular project, and while I was at perhaps that forum, would have referenced the fact that BAE Systems doesn't have a particular position on that project.
Mm-hmm. Well, BAE Systems might not have had a position on it, but it sounds like, if this is an accurate quote, that you might have had a position on it as being able to bring a lot more electricity to the region.
As an individual? No, it was just a matter of being at an event, and so, you know, again, there's a very deliberate process in place which any project has to go through. So, you know, based on the information that was provided at that particular forum, was there compelling information that was provided? Sure, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there was a support implied on that particular project, and I think I would have stated in any environment that BAE Systems does not have a position on the Northern Pass project, and I certainly as an individual don't, and I recognize that if I was afforded the opportunity to be Commissioner of DRED, that I would need to come at it with a very open mind, with fair and impartial, with no preconceived notions on any particular project, and particularly this one, either for or against it. I think it's important to make sure that you have that open mind and evaluate it on the particular merits of that particular project. So, and that's the way that I would be coming at that project, and recognizing that the uniqueness of our natural landscape is paramount, particularly in that part of the state. So I would certainly weigh all those things into consideration if I, again, was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to serve on the site evaluation committee.
How much do you know about the Northern Pass project and the proposed route?
I wouldn't say that I know a whole lot in terms of the proposed route. I do know that, as I referenced earlier, I have a place in Hampton, and I've certainly seen the orange signs, and I've certainly seen the big balloon up there, and I saw Mr. Mullen here earlier, and I know that would have a dramatic impact on his course, which happens to be my favorite course in the state. So, I recognize that there is a corridor there that exists today, but I don't necessarily know the specifics of that project, nor would I. That's not necessarily something that I do for a living, and it's not something that I've looked at in terms of the specific proposed line of that project.
How do you feel about learning a lot more about it over the next week or so? And then answering some more questions that we have, because you say you don't know a lot about it, but I have learned a lot more than I ever thought I would want to know about it, or that I ever needed to know about it in the last, I'd say in the last 2 weeks. And I have a lot of concerns about it from what I've learned. We were over at the Department of Resources and Economic Development for our breakfast yesterday morning. And Lori Hanoi, who is our head of travel and tourism,
Yep.
You probably know her, showed us some beautiful pictures of the North Country and the mountains and people hiking in the mountains. And in not one of those pictures did we see high-tension wires or 135-foot high towers. And it just struck me that it's so beautiful, and that we would need to think very, very carefully and long and hard before we would want to move ahead with a project like that, considering how most people in the North Country oppose a project like that. So if you could learn a little bit more about it and the route over the next week or two, and then maybe you and I can talk more about it. How does that sound to you?
That sounds fine, Counselor. I also just want to reiterate, though, that I do believe, while I'm always going to be willing to learn and to try to make sure I have an informed side of both, both sides of any particular issue, I don't believe that it's appropriate for the commissioner to take a position one way or another on that project, whether they're for or against it, recognizing that they need to be impartial and go into it with an objective perspective when and if the project were to ever come before the site evaluation committee and the commissioner were to serve on that position. So, I'm happy to continue to learn. I'm happy to continue to have a dialogue, but I do not believe it's a responsible thing for the commissioner of the department to take a particular position one way or another, predetermining anything before something actually becomes before that individual.
Mm-hmm. But being proactive and knowing how this this pipeline is going and how it's moving ahead, I do believe that the site committee will have a say in it. And I think you would be sitting on the site committee, maybe not the power person on it, but you'd be on it. And then you would be called upon to vigorously defend whatever position the site committee took, or whatever position you would take. For example, if you decided that these lines needed to be buried and there was a deal to be made, that way you might be able to work that out. But I would want my commissioner to be able to vigorously defend our crown jewels and our property and our parks and our forests and lands. And that's what I would be looking for the commissioner to do. So you would have a say, and you would be able to defend or not defend the state in terms of that power line coming through.
I agree that the commissioner would serve on the site evaluation committee, and that would play a a very important role. Who knows what the proposal would look like when and if it ever got to that point. We're a long ways from that today. But to the extent that I can continue to learn about this issue and other important issues as they pertain to transmission lines and the role within the site evaluation committee, I'm always going to be a very accessible person and somebody who's going to consistently be trying to learn and be able to evaluate and also recognize the natural beauty of our landscape, and that as a commissioner, that is one of your paramount responsibilities, is to preserve and protect and to promote those unique assets. And as you referenced, the real crown jewels within our state, which happen to be a lot of our forests and our state parks. So I look forward to having that opportunity, and I'll be happy to continue the dialogue as I continue to learn more about the proposed line. But again, recognizing that what today might be part of a discussion is far from something that's being considered before the site evaluation committee, because as I understand it, it's not at that stage at this point, and I don't know when and if it will ever get to that point, but I can, again, assure you that my role would be to be fair and impartial in evaluating without any preconceived notions, one way or another, on that project.
Okay, all right, I appreciate your answers. Thank you very much. Councilor Burton?
Yes, Jeff, if you get this job.
As you know, Jeff worked for me, and I think if there's anything that the four of you and hopefully Councilor Sununu can see from Jeff's interview with you tonight, he comes well prepared. He knows what he's talking about. He will be an effective ambassador for Governor Hassan, as he was for myself, for Senator Smith, and for then Congressman John Sununu. I think without doubt some of the characteristics that Jeff has, he's as hard a working person as you could find. His integrity is unquestioned. You will find that as he listened to you carefully tonight, when he worked for me, he listened to me very carefully, and that's why I know that he will be as effective an ambassador for Governor Hassan, and quite frankly the state of New Hampshire, as you can imagine. And through his preparation, his willingness to listen, his problem-solving abilities, and his consensus building skills, I think he will be a perfect fit for the DRED position.
Well, thank you very much for this opportunity, and also get well soon, Ray. We miss you.
Thank you.
When Governor Hassan appointed an Energy and Environmental Innovative Outreach team, she picked 5 people, all of whom live in the southern part of the state. I live in the central or northern part of the state. If you were to take a map of New Hampshire and fold it in 2 both directions, I'd be right in the middle of it. And we are pretty much in the epicenter of where all the energy projects are headed. There's Northern Pass, which comes very close to Plymouth, and also 3 wind turbine projects that are going to, if they're all approved, that will be encircling Newfound Lake, which is about 5 minutes from my house. So we're kind of the epicenter of where all these energy projects are headed, and we're very concerned about that. So energy and environment are very important to us, and also tourism. So when Governor Hassan appointed members of her Energy and Environmental Innovation Outreach team, and not one person was from the central or northern part of the state, and I checked them all. They all lived in the southern part of the state. It concerned me. There seems to be a philosophical disconnect, or a kind of a fundamental disconnect between the southern part of the state and the northern part of the state. And it just, maybe it's my preconception, or maybe it's not there, but it just feels that way, that a lot of decisions are being made that affect us in the northern and central part of the state, but they're being made by people further south. And I'll give you an example of that. I've been going to all the hearings on Northern Pass, and this has been, I'm into my 3rd year about Northern Pass. And at every meeting, Manchester and the Nashua Chamber of Commerce are always there, and they're always on the other side. And whether this involves eminent domain or burial or a moratorium, the Nashua Chamber of Commerce always takes the opposite side. So you can understand why when we saw Mr. Rose's name associated with the Nashua Chamber of Commerce, it sent off red flags for us. And it sounds like Mr. Rose is a very nice man, but it was concerning to us. So that's one of our concerns. There also seems to be a disconnect between corporate interests and people. And that seems to be another issue for us. Like I say, I live in Plymouth, and I don't know if you've been to Plymouth lately, but since the Groton Wind Park was put in, we have transmission lines now running down Tenny Mountain Highway, which are just a horror, absolute horror show. They're just terrible looking. And I felt like it was just a poke in our eye about that Groton Wind Park, because that road has been taken up many times to put down sewer pipes or gas pipes, electricity pipes, and they could have very easily buried those transmission lines. And it was just an insult to the people of Plymouth. We had no say in whether the project went through, but we really do. It's very visual for the people of Plymouth. So now Governor Hassan has appointed Mr. Rose from Goffstown to head up the position of DRED, and he will sit on the siting committee for energy projects proposed for the state that have enormous impact for the northern and central parts of the state. All these decisions that are being made and will be made about northern paths and industrial wind and are being made by people who live in areas that don't affect them. It's like we are guinea pigs in an experiment. And I don't hate to sound like Rodney Dangerfield here, like we don't get no respect, but that's how it's starting to feel to many of us up north. We're not getting the respect we think we deserve. And I think there are many people that live in the northern part of the state that would be very qualified for some of the positions that are being appointed down in this part of the state. But I don't think that people are looking north far enough, because I think there are plenty of qualified, experienced people that would love to have some of these positions. Also, I think there was a Northern Outreach Committee that was put together by the governor at the beginning of her administration. And I called one of the people that was on that board, and I said, well, what's going to happen with that? And she said, well, it's already been disbanded. Well, first I just didn't understand why we had a Northern Outreach Committee in the first place, because there wasn't a Southern Outreach Committee. There wasn't an Eastern or Western Outreach Committee. It was only for the North. So it feels like we're a separate species. There's something different about us. And that's one of the reasons why our concern was with Mr. Rose. He's also from the South. He has business interests. And we're looking mostly at the aesthetic impact of these projects on our neck of the woods. There's an old country song that says, she got the gold mine, I got the shaft. And that's basically how we're kind of feeling about it. We're getting the shaft, and we're not getting anything out of these projects. So I don't have a position of pro or con Mr. Rose. I just want to make sure that you understand our perspective, that we are under threat of many, many energy projects, and we don't feel like we're being heard. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. From Sugar Hill. Welcome to the hearing, Nancy.
Thank you. I'm one of the people who filled up your inbox. It's nice to meet you in person.
It's good. No, it's good to get a flavor from different perspectives.
I really appreciate having this opportunity to speak to you. I'm here because I'm very concerned about the future of our public lands here in New Hampshire. That's been discussed a lot, but I'm going to add my 2 cents. These are lands...
Excuse me a minute. Excuse me. Joanne, it's sort of interfering. Maybe you can go in there if you need to have a conversation.
Oh,
okay. Thanks. Okay, go ahead.
I'm concerned about lands over which the commissioner of DRED would have a great deal of influence. The precipitating issue for me is the proposed Northern Pass transmission project, which I believe will inflict severe damage on the area where I live. And just for the record, I'm not talking about my backyard, or my front yard, or my neighbor's backyard, or anybody else's yard, front, back, or side, or otherwise. I am talking about entire towns and an entire region and our whole state. New Hampshire is rich in natural resources, and our economy depends on these natural resources. In the North Country, we are especially dependent since our other economic drivers have faltered in recent years. The natural beauty we enjoy is more than aesthetic wonder to us. While it surely is that, and dwells within our innermost core, it is also the basis of our more than century-old tourism economy. Here's my concern regarding Mr. Rose. His assurances of impartiality notwithstanding, and he's been very eloquent on that, Mr. Rose is on record, as has been noted, with comments favorable to the Northern Pass project. No matter how many times he tells us he loves the North Country, these comments are in the public record. No matter how avid an outdoorsman he is, the comments are on record. No matter how many times he reassures us of his impartiality, the comments remain in the public record. These public comments compromise him and any agency he heads up when it comes to any decision related to Northern Pass. It would be necessary for him to recuse himself from any such decision. Failure to recuse could expose the state to legal action. Why would the governor and the council want to appoint a commissioner who is compromised in this manner? We're very concerned about this. For example, as has been mentioned, DRED holds or controls the easement on the headwaters land around the Connecticut lakes, and it is becoming apparent that PSNH will likely try for a Northern Pass route through there if their plans elsewhere in COAS are stymied as they seem to be. This means that Mr. Rose will head up the agency making a critical decision on this issue. I do not have full confidence that Mr. Rose would refuse the use of public land when pressured by business interests, despite the fact that there is a conservation easement in place. I would also point out that this question goes well beyond Northern Pass. There are many other energy projects aiming at us from north of our border. So I would be interested to know which uses Mr. Rhodes deems acceptable on publicly conserved land in general. And that's really all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
My name is Michael King. I'm from North Haverhill, New Hampshire. I'm the Executive Director of North Country Council, which is the Regional Planning Commission and the Economic Development District for, as recognized by the Department of Commerce, for the Northern Third of New Hampshire. I'm coming here in support of Jeff Rose, is a nominee for the position.
Madam Chair, council members, Councilor Burton, it's very good to hear you.
Yeah.
Looking forward to seeing you soon. I'm here, my name is Mike Fossich, I'm here as a resident of Concord. I also have served in DRED, I've worked there, I've also served as a division director. I think the only position more enviable than the person who's going to replace Tom Brady is the person who's going to replace George Ball. It's a very challenging job, but with that, I've worked with George Ball for a long time. He's a wonderful man, he's a wonderful commissioner. He treated all his divisions very well. And I believe, in knowing many commissioners over the years, that Jeff Rose has the skill sets and the experience and the know-how to serve in the great tradition of our.
Yes, sir.
My name is Chris Hodgson. I'm resident of Kentucky, New Hampshire, but I really am here tonight in two capacities. One, as a personal acquaintance of Mr. Rose, but also as a Senior Director of Government and Regulatory Affairs for Comcast here in New Hampshire. I'm not going to touch at any length on the company's endorsement of his nomination. We appreciate Governor Hassan's nomination. We certainly support it. I do want to, we're certainly a company that interacts with all the divisions at one level or another inside of DRED, have done so for many years, whether it's supporting the Division of Tourism's efforts to promote the winter sports industry during 2007 when there was not a lot of snow in southern New England and consumers needed to be reminded that there was snow in snow country, to our support for myexpertnet.com, which is an effort to bring subject matter experts together with small business and entrepreneurs inside the Division of Economic Development. We really have worked closely with DRED. I work closely with DRED in a whole range of capacities, whether it's the Economic Development Advisory Committee or the Telecommunications Planning and Development Advisory Committee. And I can say with great confidence that Jeff brings all the skills that are necessary to ably serve the department and lead all its divisions. I don't think there's anybody who's more aware of that, anybody who's more interested in preserving those resources, shepherding them, stewarding them, than Jeff Rose. So I'll conclude my personal comments in that fashion. I'm happy to take any questions, provide any follow-up that you would like during the days to come.
Thank you very much. You ever catch any of those trout? Welcome.
Hello, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
It's a pleasure to address this council and Councilor Burton at home. Lovely to see you or hear from you here. I have a few things. I might need to stand if that's all right. Sure. I would like to talk to you about the North Country, about some intrinsics that are written about, photographs taken and such that are very difficult to measure. However, last summer I did a research project on my own, and I interviewed many people from the North Country, and I simply asked them the question, what do you like about the North Country? And these were their answers. I simply wrote down what they said and encouraged them to speak up. And as I did, I found in the sample, which is over 100, that spontaneously 2/3 of the people said it was the mountains and the forests that they love about the North Country. And by the way, as I listened to them, I am a psychologist, so I listen for what people say. And they didn't answer what they like about the North Country. What people said is what they love about the North Country. And as they spoke and as I listened, I recognized that I was hearing them talk about a loved one. It was like a family member. And I'm accustomed to hearing people talk about their families. And it wasn't like they were talking about an exit on the highway or a store or a convenience. They were talking about someone they love. And so we have a measure here that 2/3 of this sample spontaneously mentioned mountains and forests. 1/2 talked about the people, that there's someone that they care about that's in the North Country, that they like the way they're treated in the North Country. We're familiar, we know each other. You know the businesses you go to, you know what their character is. And we're hearing a lot about your character tonight, hopefully. We have this in numbers here. And other things that were nature activities. Actually, were 1/3 of the people said that. And I thought, even more than that, people just love where they are. That is why we will move hours and hours away from good medical care and all these sort of conveniences that y'all wouldn't want to do without. But we will go into the deep forests and the back roads and take a left at the end of the road. That's why we do that, is because we love it there. And I just want to bring this forward as a really important, measurable asset to the state and to DRED. We want to balance out these assets with our economics. I want to go over just very briefly the state of our economy in the North Country. I have 4 little boxes here. The first one is our external market, which actually, I understand, Jeff, you're very familiar with, the big business of making goods and services, sending them out, and money comes back. That's a good thing. However, in the North Country, this is in very poor shape. Our external market is very tired and depressed. We've lost a lot of mills. We've lost the Ethan Allen for the furniture. Littleton itself has a springboard, but we are overall suffering in the North Country. It used to be a very major part of our economy. We also have the destination market, which you're probably aware of. That's where people from outside come to us. We share what we love, the beautiful mountains. They leave their money with us, and that's a lovely thing. We enjoy that quite a bit. We have the local market, which is also very poor right now, because we don't have a lot of that other money coming in. We have a moderate amount from the destination market, but that's where we sell things to each other. It's local money that's going around in circles. Then we have something called the drain market. This is where someone from elsewhere comes in, uses our resources, and the money goes elsewhere. We have certain projects that are going on and proposed in the North Country. Of course, you know about Northern Pass. We have windmills, we have some other things like that will all be coming up before the SEC, of which you would be sitting on. And we would certainly appreciate your tenderness to these things as you would be objectively viewing those decisions. I want to say one other thing is that these facilities, the wind and the electric lines, when they come in as this drain market, which depletes our resources and money goes elsewhere, not only is it in itself negative, but it has an impact on our destination market. These people who love the North Country aren't all native. People who are coming in there, tourists, people love it where we are. You don't see windmills and you don't see power lines and those beautiful paintings people do. It's because you want to be away from all that. That's our special treasure in the Northeast. And here we have this market in those cases will dampen and destroy this market. We have such the only strong point in our economy up north. So I want to say that not only are those aspects important intrinsically and in our hearts, but they are also important to our economy. And I want to bring that forward because your job will be both of those things. I'm not speaking against your appointment, and I'm not speaking necessarily in favor of it. You sound like a very well-equipped person for this. I would like this council to please consider Councillor Burton's input on this. I know that he has considered this very, very deeply, and he is just tight with these issues that are needed to be considered. So I leave that with you. Do you have some questions?